Good evening and welcome to the program. My name is Linda Banks and I'm your host tonight. If you could kindly let me know where you're watching us from, that would be amazing. I was just playing an incredible song by one of our friends, Dreams. So that's a brand new song by Dreams. Now, just out of interest, who can guess what the title of that song is? Just from the comment section, if you could tell us where you're watching us from and what the title of that song is, because I think there's a little bit of Lunda in it, so it will be quite interesting to see how many people can guess what the title of the song is. And also, it's out on iTunes and everywhere where music is sold, so please feel free to purchase that lovely song. Thank you very much for joining us. And today we have an incredible program featuring some people who are doing really lovely things. But before we get started, I just want you guys to just let us know where you're watching us from. I will be reading a few comments very quickly whilst you get ready for the program.
This July, something big is happening in Livingstone, Zambia. Get ready to book your ticket from the 6th to the 8th of July 2022. We will be shifting mindsets to ignite growth. Welcome, Mwaiseng, Mutamboke, Tamulandilani, Mwatambulwa. Welcome to the Zambia Diaspora Conference, where Zambians from across the world and at home come together with only one agenda: shifting mindsets to ignite growth. Be a part of this exciting conference, slated for the 6th to the 8th of July 2022. Come and listen to an array of amazing speakers whilst you enjoy the outstanding beauty of the Avani Victoria Falls Resort and Livingstone City, the tourist capital of Zambia. There will be lots of entertainment, plus things to do throughout the conference duration. Find out more and book your tickets today at www.shiftingmindset.org. The Zambia Diaspora Conference, shifting mindsets to ignite growth.
There you have it, folks. So there is an amazing conference that is going to be taking place in July. Now, I've just received a couple of messages from you guys saying that you can't hear. There is no sound. Can you just let us know if you can hear us clearly? Just a quick message to see if the sound is all right. Let's have a look. I can see messages from Rocky Mumba. You're watching from Kalomo. Peter Mandono, Joseph Chimba, one of our regular viewers. Welcome. Gloria Zimba. Hello. Davis Simbai. Who else? Oh, gosh, their names are coming thick and fast. And I just want to give a quick shout out to Alabama. One of my guests just sent me a message that someone had sent a little message to us from Alabama, and that is Mulenga. Mulenga, thank you very much for that lovely message. Greatly appreciated. It's people like you who make this thing work. Now then, I've got some incredible people in my presence. The first one is Dr. Frida Mwamba Brazil. Dr. Frida, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much, Linda. Thank you for having us. And good afternoon, good morning, good evening to all our viewers out there. And I just want to say a good thank you as well to Elias for allowing us this platform to excitedly share with you what we have going on.
Well, thank you very much for coming. And we're going to have a lovely conversation. Mr. Xavier Mwambwa, good evening. Welcome to the show.
Good evening to you, Linda, and good afternoon from New York to you and your viewers. It's good to have us here, and thank you.
Fantastic. That is lovely. Now then, I'm going to start with you, Dr. Brazier. You have been doing incredible things in America, and you and I have been practicing local languages so that we just don't lose that Zambian touch. And so, how did this project come to be?
Yeah, no, thank you so much for again having us on the program. And we started out really as an organization in Atlanta. The organization is called Zambians Promoting Leadership in America, and it's shortened by ZLA Foundation. And back in 2014, when Zambia was turning 50, we recognized an opportunity to host an event. And we did not want to be sitting in a bar or in a hall drinking beer and wine. We wanted to have something that was more meaningful and more purpose, something that really celebrated who we were as a country. So we hosted an event, and from then, we've continued to have celebrations that are purpose-driven, but really around transformational leadership was what our anchor was. And we have built upon that to coming to realizing that, you can have leadership, but if you don't have the right mindset amongst the people, amongst all our people, then you do have staggered progress. So when you start looking at the opportunity that we've had in our country since August with our new president, Hakainde Hichilema, and his promise around adopting the diaspora as the 11th province, we recognize that we also have to rise to the equation and start shifting our mindset around what that means from the diaspora, but also our friends of the diaspora, as well as our Zambians on ground.
Thank you very much. Before we dive deep into that mindset shift and what sort of things you've got planned for the Zambian people, I want to know a little bit more about you, and our viewers would like to know a little bit more about you. Who is Dr. Brazier?
All right.
How did you find yourself in the United Kingdom? What took you there?
Right. So I'm actually in the United States.
Kingdom.
I'm in Atlanta.
I know that. My brain is UK engraved. In the United States, apologies.
No worries. Born in Chinsali, came to the States as a young child, went back to Zambia, went to St. Mary's, which was then called Dominican Convent, finished off there, came back to the States, finished college here. And afterwards, at that point, in all honesty, Zambia was like in the background, so you go through college, you start working. I've worked with 5 majors, blue chip companies. My first job from college was with Coca-Cola. And then from Coca-Cola, I went to General Electric. And then General Electric, I went to Bank of America. And then I went to Arthur Andersen Consulting. And I've been in healthcare for the past 12 years. And in summary, my heart and soul is in Zambia. Physically, I'm in Atlanta, and it's just for love for country that I know that I share with others the whole aspect of what can we in the diaspora do and provide as opportunities and commitment to sustainable development. So that's in summary. I have 2 children, and I'm married in Atlanta.
Thank you so much. Now let's move on to Mr. Xavier Mwambwa. In a nutshell, could you just tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do, and then we can dive into the reasons why you're so passionate about this project.
Thank you, Linda, for for the opportunity. So, like everybody involved in this project, we are all sons and daughters of the soil of Zambia, right? So I'm obviously Zambian. I've been in the diaspora for almost 10 years. I think this is the 9th year. I left Zambia in 2013, lived and worked in Kenya for 2 years, lived and worked in South Africa for 2 years. And then I moved to the US, where I'm based now in New York 4 years ago. My background obviously started off from Zambia, where I worked in development with civil society, mostly on economic policies, continued in that route at the Pan-African level. And now I'm working in philanthropy. I work for the Open Society Foundation, where we're supporting, different stakeholders, governments, NGOs around economic policies and debt. So I think this is a collection of Zambians who share the Zambianness and the love for Zambia, but who come from diverse professional backgrounds, diverse cultural backgrounds as well, and yet tied together by one thing, which is the need and the love for them to see all Zambia and Zambians succeed, both at home and abroad. So I'm very excited and passionate to work with such a brilliant team of Zambians and Zambian friends.
Thank you so much. Well, we're equally excited to work with you. So exciting things ahead. Now, on your concept proposal, it stipulates that the project has been endorsed by State House, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the international corporation, including Her Worship the Mayor of Livingstone. Now, I'm sure most of you, the viewers, including us, I think especially more us, from diaspora, know that countries like Nigeria, Rwanda, and several other African countries are leveraging the human capital as well as the financial capital from diaspora. Now, do you know if the Hichilema Lumango administration has actually put in place a diaspora desk at the Foreign Affairs Ministry? Who would like to take that? Do we know? Because you have said that you have Foreign Affairs as well as State House on board. Shall we go with Mr. Mambo? Would you like to take that?
Sure. First of all, diaspora relations and discussions about how diasporas relate with their home countries are not new.
Mm-hmm.
The process of defining what will be the diaspora engagement between not just Zambians in diaspora with fellow Zambians back home, but also with Zambians in diaspora, with how they fit into the overall national development process, the government policies. Those discussions have been on and off. What's new, however, is that this process we're embarking on seeks to provide a much more comprehensive, a much more systematic, a much more harmonized way of having these conversations in ways that are clear and are inclusive of different stakeholders. So yes, from the government side, there have been different sort of diaspora desks set up previously by different administrations. And I think it's very much the intention of this government to encourage these discussions, and we're doing consultations around, practically speaking, what the policy will look like, how to translate that policy into action, including to maintain the constant, regular, and institutionalize the engagement and not have it as ad hoc. The diaspora desk is one element of doing that. And I think there's talk about having more formalized relationships, having more formalized MOUs, and the decision as to where that would be based will be part of that discussion.
Okay. So currently, there's no formalized way of communicating with the government. So how do you intend to actualize your dreams, your objectives?
Yeah. And if you don't mind, I'd like to just add on to your question.
Sure.
Late President Rupiah Banda initiated the first diaspora desk, and this was in 2009. And there has been significant amount of research and work and surveys to really identify who the diaspora are. There is a roadmap that is written in 2013 by the International Organization of Migration, or the IOM, and in it there are lots of best practices. So in Zambia, we've always had a diaspora desk, and it's in bed within the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And that's where, when we speak about where it was endorsed, it had to be endorsed by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And we have been working in collaboration with the desk in pulling this agenda as well as program together. Your question around the opportunity is that there's a huge difference between just written concepts and recommendations and implementing them.
Yeah.
And we can't wait for government to always start these initiatives for us. And this is one where we, as the diaspora team that has pulled together, that represent all continents, we're not even sleeping. We have representation on the team from Australia, from Europe, from Africa, where there's a significant number.
And from Asia, actually.
That's right, and Asia. And we're all really pulling together to saying, let's also act. We can't wait for government to act. And we have a role. Every person has a role and accountability to help drive to what Xavier said, the success of Zambia. So I hope that gives you a little bit of opportunities around the background, but now it's the time to act. It's the time to implement.
Absolutely. Now, my next question is at the back of what President Sata once famously said, and I quote, he said, all educated people are cowards. Now, excuse me, all of you guys, all of us are fairly educated, and we're all in diaspora. There are quite a number of very educated people in Zambia, but a huge percentage, you're going to go through the figures, because I've seen on your concept note, you've got figures of how many Zambians are in diaspora. Now, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you agree with that statement that all educated people are cowards? And the reason why I ask this is the most educated people, they leave Zambia eventually. And for whatever reason, some are forced out, whilst others leave for whatever various reasons, maybe to seek new pastures, greener pastures, so to speak. I'll give you an example. Dr. Clive Chilwa, he's a professor who's an incredible guy. He's been working with Elon Musk. I spoke to him last week. He was at NASA incubating, and the Americans are using him immensely. He was ousted out during the Lungu administration. He had to literally leave the country, and yet this is the type of person that we should be keeping. So my question is, how much do you agree with that statement by the late President Michael Sata, that all educated people are cowards? Do we just leave? Do we not have tenacity enough to stay and make things happen at home? Now is the time we're thinking, perhaps let's go back and do something about it.
So can I go?
Sure.
Okay. I think you have to take that statement with not in the literal sense, okay, but also it's understandable how anyone or people believe that, or how people live. First of all, since time immemorial, migration and the diaspora dynamics have been an integral part of any society. They're actually a healthy part of a living society. So rather than look at the diaspora or people who live as traitors to their own countries, we have to look at them as a resource. Think of them as we're having a pool of resources, expertise, cultural export, different types of resources in them, and also as conduits, or think of them as mops, right? Like which mop ideas from where they are, new ideas, new creativity, new ways of thinking, and bring that back home. Because most diasporas are always in contact. They remain connected to their home countries. So it's not entirely true to think of diasporas sitting over there and then the home country over here, and then there's no connection. Yeah. So the reason why this conference, in fact, one of the main reasons of this conference is actually to debunk such myths, and creating trust and changing mindset. Remember, ideas or actions are born from ideas. So how you think about something will determine how you act about that thing. So part of the mind shifting element of this conference is precisely that, to get together and understand our different worldviews as Zambians from different places, understand some of the barriers, cultural barriers and other types of barriers that are obstacles to us working together and having a certain narrative that is more productive than negative, a mindset and a narrative that is more constructive than pulling apart. So precisely those questions are what we seek to debunk. But the first starting point is to create a space. So the conference will create a space where these conversations can be had in different ways, not just talking and lamenting. And I kept telling Frida yesterday that people need to move on from the Book of Lamentations, where they're just lamenting and complaining.
That's a nice one.
To the Book of Acts, where they begin to take action, right? And
that is pretty good.
And I'll just add on to that.
Yeah, of course.
Dr. Clive Chilwa's story is not unique. There are so many Zambians that have attempted and tried to do their part in Zambia. And in Pathways to Excellence, which is a book written by Chisanga Puta, he calls out and names people. In fact, when I was reading that book, I was asking him to introduce me to these people. And President Steady Mono, he is president of Schenectady. He has been trying so hard to start with his hospitality, bringing it to Zambia, because his school is ranks top in New York State. And so there are many stories like Clive Chirwa. So you talk about mindset shift, right? That's needed for us as well as people on ground. There's a huge opportunity, and you mentioned he's working with Elon Musk. Each of these diasporans have a network of people. Now we have a responsibility to share the opportunities in Zambia. You know, you think about the mindset opportunity in Zambia. Paul Kagame talks about it's not that we need more funding. We need to shift the way that we think, right? And we think about the way we were raised and the opportunities there where we want to bring in, and we are bringing in individuals who are equally successful, like Dr. Clive Chirwa, to come in and really start looking to what Xavier mentioned, the collaboration, right? So as the diaspora have had several experiences, and some of them not so positive, they want to now create that to creating more positive experiences. And on ground, there is also this feeling of, you guys that are in the diaspora, you think you're smarter than us, but that's the whole point. The whole point is let's discuss why these myths exist and let's get over them, because we need to be united in creating the Zambia that we want.
Absolutely.
So I think another point, just to add to what Frida said, the mind shifting has to happen. Just to be clear, right? It has to happen. I just want to emphasize this point. It's both ways. I don't think we are saying, oh, the diaspora community have all the answers and understand the country better, and they've got these smart ideas, and then they are coming down to educate home-based Zambians. No, I think there are elements of learning from each other, of shifting up how we think about each other, understanding our specific context, so that with that put aside, we can then achieve more. And collaboration is not just for the sake of collaboration, right? It's not the end in itself. In order for people to collaborate, the reason why, the interest, the benefits, and what they're going to achieve must be clear and must align to everybody, the different interests. So I think that should be very clear, that we are very mindful that the shifting of mindset has to happen on both ways at different levels.
That's really important, actually, to note. What I want us to do now is literally to start from the beginning. If one of you can decide to describe what a mindset shift is in your own words, what is mindset shift? What are you intending to do with this phrase? Because this could be about just changing people's views on how things happen. I know you've alluded to it briefly, but I want us to dissect that, and then we can dig deep into your project. Should we start with Dr. Frida, please?
Sure. So the definition that's out there on mindset, it's a set of beliefs that shape how a person has a sense of themselves and the world, right? And it influences how you think, how you feel, and how you act. And if you think back to, my interest in all this starts when I started looking at, why do people think a certain way? Why do people act a certain way? And it starts with our own insights around our capabilities, right? They are, I love Carol Dweck in her book called Mindset. She has a book, it's an amazing book. She talks about those that have fixed beliefs. You know what? I'm a girl, so I'll never be able to do work as an engineer. Or I'm a young entrepreneur. I can never reach the likes of Elon Musk, because we have self-limitations around ourselves. And each of us have that, and coming back to what Xavier said, the mindset shift isn't saying it's for the diaspora. It's not saying it's for the national. Each of us have got these parameters around which we put limitations on what we can and cannot do. And there's that saying that you cannot be what you don't see, right? And until you see somebody that's achieving, until you see that, your mind starts thinking like, hey, you know what? I can do that too. So when you started talking about Nigeria, Rwanda, Kenya, that have a more formalized diaspora engagement, and you start thinking about the statistics, like in Zambia, first quarter 2022, $58 million went into it. And this was individual, right? Mindset has to shift, that we trust that they will be formalized areas where we can infuse even more money, double that, triple that, towards the development. And that's going to require a mindset shift on all people. So each of us have that opportunity to really challenge ourselves on, how do I think? Why do I think the way that I think? And how can I overcome it for me to be much more successful? And I'll use another example. We're a culture where we do not encourage questions. There are people that ask a lot of questions, and people say, oh my goodness, you ask too many questions. But if you start thinking about innovation, innovation starts with you challenging the status quo. And that comes with asking questions. So from a culture perspective, we have to shift that thinking about condemning too many questions and condoning a lot of questions, and being comfortable having different views and coming to a common belief of saying, you know what, maybe we disagree, but let's move on. And so these fractured opportunities that we self-impose, it starts with ourselves, the mindset, and how you can either use it to make you or use it to break you.
That is true. Why do you think Zambians need a mindset shift? What specific areas do you think they need a mindset shift on? And what are the repercussions if this is not done?
I think, but first of all, I think I have nothing to add to what Frida said. That's brilliant in terms of how you look at what mindset is. Precisely, this is a moment where Zambians, we need to begin to talk about these things and act on them around shifting, because I think we've wasted far too much time, and for far too long, we've always seen ourselves as passive victims, passive recipients of other people's intervention in our country. So even when things are going wrong or going right, we always point to the external as, oh, we need help from here, or it's the cause of these problems are these people here. Everything is pointed to external actors. It's almost as if we're not in charge of our own destiny.
Yeah.
So in terms of our own self-confidence, self-identity as individuals and as a country, that's very important that we shift that mindset and make sure that only us can take charge, only us can make the changes. It has to start with the mind first before it can be sort of acted upon.
Yeah, reducing self-limiting beliefs and having this victim mentality, and also just thinking that somebody else is responsible for our well-being, be it the government, be it IMF. Why do we have to believe that it's other people's responsibility for us to live well as a people? Now, this is not a secret. It probably sounds unpalatable, but it's could be described as an open secret that Zambians, we as Zambians, we are rooted in tradition and culture, and generally very suspicious of anyone trying to help us or encourage us to change our minds on any aspect, especially anything that is based on European or international culture. Now, what makes you think that Zambians back home will listen to a bunch of very educated and privileged Zambians coming from diaspora, waving this one, saying, look, we have reached enlightenment, we know this, you can jump on board. What makes you think they're going to listen to you, especially people on the ground who have these beliefs that for someone to be successful, for someone to be wealthy, then they are a satanist, or satanics, as I call it. How are you going to achieve that?
Yeah, no, that's a brilliant question. And, it comes back to that whole thinking about they think that way. And I like how you anchored it around culture. If you think about our culture, and actually we have it in bed in our program with Dr. Chisanga Putte, who's done research on colonization. What did colonization do for us? It made us embrace this European ways and made us forget about culture, right? And we started thinking that we had to serve, right? The people that had different skin color and tone than our own. And it started there, but a lot of times we don't think about that. If you go to a restaurant or you go to a place of entertainment, sometimes you see that varied service because somebody has a different skin color or tone than ours. Now, until we start asking ourselves, well, why do I treat people that have a different skin color than different from those that have the same color as myself? We have to start thinking about that. And our intention isn't to come in and say, we are coming in from the outside. We have collaborating with the Minister of Finance. So we're toe and toe. And when we look at our program, we have crafted in the Trevor Mumbas, the Caesar Siwales, people that are on ground because they have come to that place where we have an opportunity to work better together and collaborate together. There is no one that can say, I don't need diaspora currency in pushing this forward. They are Zambian businesses that are thriving, that are looking for investors. They are Zambians in the diaspora that have board experience, that have governance experiences, that we can infuse into those businesses, because at the end of the day, we have an opportunity to work together and really change the way that we think. So it's not just about the Zambian on the ground. And not everybody's going to get it. I will say that. I will submit that. But there are few that will get it. And the few that will get it will then allow us to create that momentum in pushing forward. And others will follow when they see the opportunities that are coming out of this when you marry the diaspora and the national persons together.
Excellent. Did you have anything to add, Mr. Mom?
Yeah, I think the conference is really not about talking to us, talking to them. It's really about having conversations, which is a two-way process, right? Then secondly, I think the idea that we can shift mindset in one conference, obviously everybody knows that's not possible, right? So this is a process.
Yeah, over a 2-day period. Maybe you are Jesus Junior. It's possible. You never know.
It's a process, and we know that's why it's going to be an annual conference, first of all, so that we can, one, not just continue talking, but acting as well. Take stock of what has happened between the last time we said these are the actions and now. Two, we're also going to use it to showcase successful examples and successful role models of Zambians, both Zambians outside Zambia and Zambians in Zambia, who are really thriving and doing different things that can inspire and make people aspire. Young Zambians growing up aspire to be like them.
Can I just pause you? Can I just pause you on that thought? That's a brilliant point that you just raised. Other Zambians who are doing brilliantly well back at home, because it's not just about us in diaspora. There are other people back home who are doing fantastic work and who our young people can learn from.
Exactly. And that's why people must buy a ticket. There's a daily ticket, so that they see. We're not going to start giving our secrets. We have a very interesting, very exciting show, very practical show that would really inspire anyone who's an entrepreneur, anyone who's interested in culture, anyone who's interested in business, anyone who's interested in policy. But I think this is not going to be a talking shop. We can guarantee you that.
Yeah. It's and I'll just add that this team has a bias for action, and that's the interesting part, is that we come together as a team. We divide assignments, and people are just acting and just moving, and the results are seen for themselves. And this is a team that has never even met in person. So let's talk about how people say that Zambians in the diaspora do not get along or they cannot pull together. We are a team that have never met physically, but we've been on Zoom calls every morning. We have a huddle for an hour, 90 minutes, just talking about what do we need to do. And we have a report out with the Minister of Foreign Affairs as well. But it's just really the opportunity for us to shift where we are, change our thinking about each other. And like Xavier said, it's a process.
Yeah.
Like running a marathon. You can't run a marathon after 2 days of training.
Rome was never built in 2 days or one day. The important point you just raised there, Dr. Prezo, was the fact that it's a general consensus that Zambians in diaspora don't get on, and a
myth rather than a consensus. I'll say a myth.
Yes, it's a myth. It's a myth that we intend to demystify, perhaps. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely.
And how would you intend to do that? This is like rooted, embedded in our culture, in our system. It's in the fabric of our being. How do you intend to demystify?
First of all, the conference is a good example of that, of how, like Frida said, how people, Zambians, who some of them, more than 70% of this group have never met each other, can come together and pull off such a very complex process, which involves different stakeholders working remotely. I think if Zambians in diaspora do not coordinate, it's not for lack of possibility or lack of want. Probably, as we're saying, it's a mindset, right? So I think demonstrating in action is the best example one can give. So starting with what's going to happen at the conference, what's going to happen beyond the conference, we're going to debunk those myths and also understand them better, understand what leads to those myths, And of course, we're not saying everything is rosy, right? Like any society, but I think we have to move forward in spite of the difficulties, in spite of the hurdles.
We've
And
got
I'll
to
just
start.
add that none of us are paid. Everybody
No,
is doing this on top of their regular job. So this is,
exactly.
and it's very demanding. It's at least 3-4 hours every day that we are
Yeah.
here trying to find sponsorship, trying to find, awareness, raise awareness, but also get people already starting to think, how do I think? So I would challenge everybody that's on the phone, how do I think? And
Yeah.
is my thinking aligned with success? Because this is 21st century right now, and we have to change the way that we were educated, because
Yeah.
education is rote. We have to become more creative, and we have to be able to face each other when we have difference in opinions. I think a lot of times the inability to have crucial conversations when your emotions are high prevent us from working together because we disregard each other. So this is happening. When you said how we're going to prove it, I believe the team right now is proving it.
Excellent. And also just the ability to sort out issues. I think that's a mindset change in itself, because a bunch of intellectuals coming together, there's no way in hell you're going to agree on the same concepts. So the idea of having emotional intelligence and just being able to agree to disagree is quite critical, pulling off a project like this. And also the fact that all this stuff that we all do is voluntary, and that is a mindset shift in itself. Because back home, it's like, if I'm going to spend hours getting in touch with you, Dr. Frida, you like me are workers. In the middle of the night, we're conversing, exchanging ideas. I could be earning, you could be earning at that time, or spending time with the family, but it's all voluntary. And that in itself demonstrates that we're shifting our mindsets, the way we think, because usually it would be like, I'm not getting paid. Why am I spending 2 hours chatting to Dr. Frida Braza? Why? So that is quite brilliant in itself. Well, we're going to have a quick look at what the viewers are saying before we carry on to the next segment. So I would just encourage, if you've just joined us, my name is Linda Banks, and I've got Mr. Xavier Mwamba as one of the guests, and also the lovely Dr. Frida Brazo. Is it Brazo or Brazo?
You can
How do
say
you pronounce it?
Mwamba is good. Brazzle, it's dazzle, brazzle. Mwamba is also good.
Mwamba is also good. Yes. So I have been joined by these two incredible people who are doing this all for free, and they have got an incredible team behind them. So if you have a point to make, how do you think we can help ourselves? Not how can other people help us? How can we help ourselves change our mindset? We had an interesting game on social media, on my social media handles. People have sent me all sorts of crazy stuff. I'm going to go through some of them in a little while, because there were some brilliant ones that came up. But in the meantime, I'm going to add one of our TV Bakwetu team members, Mr. Mapanza Nkulimba. Mr. Nkulimba, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Linda. Sorry, I'm not going to be live in terms of seeing the picture because
That's
of
okay.
yeah. Well, it's really a fantastic.
Mr. Nkulimba, have you gone back to factory settings? Is that why you can't come live on the camera?
It's quite cold, and I've wrapped myself with a lot of things.
Oh, I wanted to.
Yeah, it's 12 degrees Celsius
12
tonight.
degrees, that's double digits. What are you talking about? It's cold.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, well, I mean, the discussion is really fantastic, and I'm just listening, and I just want to learn from those that are discussing. The issues that you are raising are important. Talking about the mindset, definitely there is a lot that can be done, and it will be interesting to see how Zambians in the diaspora could contribute to the change of mindset in Zambia. It's just amazing the way, for example, just the way people work. Just a few days ago, we were organizing a workshop. We have started a small company, and we we had a workshop on strategic procurement and supply chain management, and we were trying to invite the media because a government official was coming to close the workshop. And I call a media house at night, and they tell me, well, I'll relay the message to the person who distributes journalists. In the morning, I check on what the progress, or I conveyed the message to the person who is supposed to dispatch a journalist. And then, after that, I kept calling, and the phone was just ringing and ringing and ringing from morning to about 14 hours when the event was happening, and there was no journalist that came from that media house. This is just a point on how, they could work better. They could say, if they're not prepared to send someone, they could say so. If they wanted to be paid, they could say, yeah, we can send somebody, but you have to pay us something.
Yeah.
But here you are trying to call a media, and they just disappoint you like that, and they don't give you any feedback. So those are the kind of things that perhaps, the way people work here, there's need to change the mindset of how we work. That's just one small example, but you can see that almost everywhere you go.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. That's a very important point that you've raised. And a lot of people actually adding that to the list, attitudes towards work, that is usually quite problematic. I'll just read a few comments from my Facebook page. Some people are talking about changing the political narrative, that it's only politicians who can change our lives, shift from going to having a just going to school mentality. I think this kind of touches on the question that I had: is education the only way to success? I think that's what they were trying to talk about. Ask for better remuneration instead of stealing. Apparently, stealing is quite prolific, so people are mentioning that. Another thing that they're talking about, the belief that someone coming from a humble background cannot attain wealth, and if they do, attain satanics. I love that phrase. Not
we can tell.
Who would like? Actually, let's start with Dr. Frida. Any views on that, on the ones that I've just mentioned?
Yeah,
and
no, absolutely. Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think it's again making sure that it's not the only educate people that can be successful in life, but you have to be a lifelong learner, because the world is continuously changing. And so you cannot be set in your way of saying, I've acquired knowledge, this is all the knowledge that I'm going to acquire. If you have a business, right? You see, you have a business and COVID happened, and then you became used to finding out that nobody's going to come to your store, so you have to go into delivery, right? That's a shift in mindset. That's a shift in how you run your business. So continuous change is going to continue to happen. So it's not about being educated, but being a lifelong learner, to understanding how do you remain relevant. And then the part about politicians, you do not have to be a politician to get money, right? But we can switch that up. You don't have to be a politician to make difference in
Sorry to interrupt you, Dr. Frida. If you have just joined the program, kindly mute yourselves unless you're talking, just so that we avoid the feedback that we're getting right now. Thank you. Dr. Frida?
Yeah, and I think I also heard something about work attitudes and behaviors. I know that it's the biggest challenge is getting somebody to respond to you or acknowledge that they have received your message. You send a message out to somebody and they'll read it, but instead of giving them, the 3 seconds or 5 seconds to say acknowledge, or I'm busy, I'll get back to you, that doesn't exist. So we have to change the way that we interact with each other for us to start making good progress. But those are great comments, and thanks for sharing them.
Yeah. On that last one, why do we think we do that? Because that's quite a common occurrence. Even just guess, you arranged for something, and then they just respond. And 2 days later, they're like, "Oh, I'm sorry, this happened." Where do you think that comes from?
I think it's, again, you have to challenge people. Lack of understanding, lack of urgency, right? We are laid back, which sometimes is good. However, people have to recognize that, how do they feel? Coming back to your mindset, how do you feel when somebody doesn't respond to you? So coming back to treat people the way you want to be treated. If you want to have your responses responded to, then you start responding. Otherwise, don't be mad when people don't respond to you. So it's coming back to that thinking. How am I thinking? How am I feeling when I do this to somebody else? And how would I feel when they do it to us? And until you raise some of these comments and conversations, we will continue with that same behavior, which is driven by our mindset.
Okay, thank you very much. Did Ms. Mobo want to add to that? And as you're thinking of adding to that, there's more that are just streaming through: morality, discipline, integrity, or lack of any of those.
Yeah, I think context, as we all know, in any situation, when talking about culture, and context matters a lot, right? So you have to understand or ask yourself, like, what are the motivations? In order for anyone to change their current behavior, two things must happen. Either they become so uncomfortable that there's a cost, or there's a sanction, or there's negative consequence to them continuing on that behavior personally, or if they're moving on a certain course and you want them to shift, they won't shift until there's something. It's basically the laws of Newton, right? Like, yeah, exactly. So
Whatever goes up must come down.
No. For every
reaction,
every body in motion will continue in motion until an
exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So
because you have to be specific, Mr. Mwambo. Newton had so many things.
If there's no incentive for people to change their behavior, they won't. It doesn't matter how good the behavior is or how bad it is. So our cultural context must be understood. We have to, we reduce ourselves to where people are first in terms of understanding. Then we lift people up, but we have to meet them where they are.
Yeah.
Otherwise, if we don't do that, if we're just like saying, "Oh, but why are they doing this?"
Yeah.
This needs to change. The other
problem. So you're thinking more of a holistic approach to mindset shift.
Yes, that's part of shifting mindset. Is first of all understanding the incentives. What are the different incentive systems structure? I don't mean
instead
incentive
of
money,
condemning, blaming,
but I'm saying we have to understand that as part of transformational change, because real transformational change comes from the person themselves, not from outside.
Yeah. And I was going to say, the other part also is that whole angle of what's in it for me, right? What's in it for me? And, I always share with people that you watch these Nigerian movies and you see the security guard telling his child, you're going to be a doctor, you're going to be an engineer, you never hear them saying you're going to be a politician, right? But in Zambia, how can we even get our security guards and our house girls to tell their children that you're going to be successful, you're going to be a doctor and nurse, right? Not that there's limitations, but getting them to start thinking big and going for those big goals and big opportunities. And that's where, if we start talking about it more and getting people to start seeing it, then you have a higher probability of more people being able to change the way they do things.
Thank you very much. Aiming high and daring to dream big. We have been joined by Mr. Mkeleva. Welcome to the program, and quickly just jump into your comments.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you, Doctor and our brother. Me, I would just say this: the problem that we have in Zambia, for us to finish up all this kind of mindset we are talking about, or to change this mindset, it has to start from the family. From the families in the first place, and in school education system, and at workplace, where you see how our people behave when the employer is a little bit strict, that you are threatened with being terminated, you are being fired, you're gonna be fired if you come late. But I was in Zambia last month, and I was made to wait for a gentleman that made me to travel from Western Province to Livingstone just to go and check on a plot. And he made me to wait for 4 hours at Livingstone post office. Yet our agreement was we meet at 8. And he came 4 hours later. And he just said, oh, sorry, traffic. That was it.
and he looked the other way around. And to me, I was burning. So it's that kind of impotency. If we can actually inculcate in our people's mind to say, guys, this is how we need to change. Let's educate ourselves when to align ourselves to the current, to the current systems, especially when it comes to our customary miambo. Our miambo are so outdated, to be honest. It's not that we hate our culture, but most of our cultures are so repugnant to natural justice that they're disturbing us. They're hindering us to develop. And that's why twalikwata obufi. That's why twalikwata jealous. That's why even us who live in the diaspora, when we go back home, kaendedwe, kachinja, kakambidwe, kachinja, we start looking at others as though they are nothing, but because as we've been enlightened or been to places that are developed, and we think our brothers back home and sisters, they are ignorant. So we just have to change also that mindset. Even though we're educated, we can still be what? Ignorant, isn't it? And that's the most dangerous part. So that's my take for now.
Thank you.
Hypocrisy, hypocrisy. We preach, we don't practice what we preach, especially my religious, my pastors. It's difficult. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Religion was mentioned. Hold your thoughts, Mr. Mwamba and Dr. Frida. We'll now have Mr. Chilufya. Welcome to the program, and please make your submissions.
Mrs. Banks, I haven't followed the program for a long time, but I can see. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I can see you're talking about the mind change, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. So it's for us, especially Zambia, to develop. I think we need to change so much. Especially you remember, Linda, you and me, we get furious when people get late.
Don't start revealing
Zambians, they don't. As Zambians, we don't respect time.
Yeah.
We don't know that time is money, and once time is lost, you cannot regain it.
Yeah.
So, and then people, you find doctors, they report to work, or they go to work late, and then when they report at 10 o'clock, they just stay in the hospital for 1 hour. They disappear, and then they come back. So, and also, the work culture is so bad in Zambia that, especially in government, we find that people are just selling things at work and they are not working. But again, as somebody mentioned, incentives. I think there need to be incentives for people to change that mindset. And sometimes there are theories like offer a carrot and a stick. Some of those can help people to change. If you perform well, we'll give you a carrot. If you don't perform, we'll give you a stick. And also it has to do with tradition, as our brother Mukeleva alluded to. But for us to change, and also it's not just Mukeleva was saying, when the diaspora people go to Zambia, they look under Zambians living there. But there's a problem at the moment. Against, a lot of Zambians don't want the diaspora. They don't like the diaspora. And there is so much resistance to the diaspora, such that they think the diasporan people are a threat to their jobs. But instead of working in partnership with the diaspora, they think the diaspora is a threat to their jobs. Look at what happened to Mr. Chilwa. Went there, wanted to improve things at Zambian Airways. What happened? He wanted to change the mindset of the people at Zambian Airways, the way things are done, the culture.
He was actually in prison for it,
resistance. There was so much resistance to him that he ended up in prison.
Yeah.
So for us to develop as Zambians, and then also we need to agree to disagree, and then we also need to accept we need to accept to agree, but at the end of the day find a solution to what we are doing. And then also there is a culture of just talking, like in government there are so many good policies and they've packed them. When it comes to implementation, nothing. They just procrastinate, and the culture needs to change. And then again, also we can use incentives like more money. Maybe how do you pay? Somebody was saying, we want to produce 1.5 million tons of copper, and to do that, you have to change the mindset of the miners. Zambia needs to work hard so that we can produce 1.3 million tons of copper. But how can somebody be motivated if they are earning 4,000 kwacha? So again, paying, and you look at how do you change the mindset of somebody to start working hard when they are earning 4,000 kwacha a month and they are indebted? I submit. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Mr. Mombo, would you like to comment on any of those points that have been raised? And how do you intend to tackle that in your conference?
Yeah, my only comment. I mean, we all see these things, observe these things, and some of the examples, anecdotal examples, your viewers were alluding to, are partly what contributes to some of the narratives, some of the myths. And then one important thing is that all these are complex issues, right? We see these things elsewhere in other countries, so they're complex issues. We must understand that there are so many ways of resolving them. There are so many entry points. So what we're trying to do with this conference is just one entry point. That's just one way of beginning to have genuine conversations. I think we also need to learn how to talk to each other. Most people think we know how to talk to each other, but we really don't know how to talk to each other about certain types of conversation that may not even be complicated. Once you resolve how to talk to each other, you find that a lot of problems will be resolved with ease just by conversation. So I think we should also be realistic and to manage expectation that we are very mindful and are very clear that we will not resolve all the complex challenges that we have through a conference, but it's a beginning of very important conversations, even about how to talk to each other about difficult discussions.
Lovely. Thank you very much. Dr. Frida, would you like to add or comment on any of the points that have been raised?
Sure. I'll just say that, even showing examples, if you, have a restaurant and you have 15 seats on that restaurant, the faster that you're able to service your 15 and get them gone and bring in another 15, the more revenues that you can create as a business owner. So if you have an owner that has that understanding and employs people and says, you know what, today we had, let's just do 15 times 4. You had 60 customers and I'm going to pay you, you get your little tips or your tips, and that adds up. So that whole thing of saying, there is something in it for me. So the next 15 that come into that restaurant will get served well. They'll smile better. They'll get better tips. The other 15 will come in. And it's just that thinking around, you could do it that way, or you can do it the way that you're doing it right now, where you have 15 restaurant attendees and it takes you an hour to service each of them. So it's that aspect of looking at what the options are and helping us start thinking differently and acting differently, because that's where the silver lining is, that we start acting differently. So that's just an example that I wanted to throw out.
Thank you very much. Now I want to find out why Livingstone. We've talked about all the different problems that need to be tackled, but obviously we are not going to solve Zambian problems in a conference that is just going to be over 2 days. Would be wonderful if we could do that. Excuse me. So why Livingstone? Why did you choose Livingstone? And I've been looking at the costs as well, and people, what eye-watering amount. So could you just talk us through how you came up with this amount? We're trying to change the ordinary Zambian mindset, but the cost is quite astronomical. It's quite high. How do you justify that amount, and how can an ordinary Zambian access this conference? Is there going to be another way of accessing the conference, maybe online or any other way?
Yeah, So one of the things that we wanted to do, a responsibility of diaspora in country, is tourism. So we knew that Livingstone has the seven wonders of the world. So it would be an easy sell for people that either have never been to Livingstone, like Lukwesa Burak. She's like, I went to Livingstone when I was a young child. Fiskani Kaira, these are people that are coming to speak, has never been to Livingstone. A lot of times people going to Lusaka, they go into Copperbelt and they go back home. So we wanted to go to boost tourism by going to one of the seven wonders of the world. And then we also had a stakeholder that was passionate and believed in this cause. If you had an opportunity to see her worship, Constance speak about the Livingstone that she grew up in versus the Livingstone as it is today, that was something that was important for us, because you always need somebody who's going to chair it, that's going to promote it, that's going to push it for you. And then the other part also is the population, 140,000 people in the Livingstone area that were impacted by COVID. Everybody knows that for the most part, after all the manufacturing industries died, the main income is tourism. So 140,000 people have had no opportunity to really go back to making their earnings. So we wanted to also bring in the diaspora so that they can take it and participate and promote the bungee jumping and whitewater rafting and restaurants that the people have suffered. The cost, Livingstone is expensive. We have negotiated with Avani, who is an amazing hotel, on making it as economically feasible for others to attend. So what we did was, instead of having one whole package deal, we got feedback from our customers and we decided to break it up so that you can get a day pass.
Yeah.
We're also heavily exploring virtual attendance because we've had a huge demand of people that have conflicts with other meetings or are not able to travel because the universities, for example, the schools in London closed, I think, a week after.
Exactly. Yeah. So this is, I'm trying to negotiate my time. It's like it's the beginning of July and I can't get out. So yeah.
Yeah, so we're exploring that as well as an option for people to get virtual. And obviously everything is coming back to where we started. We're a nonprofit, so we don't have any money that we're bringing to the table. This is a group that has just been pulled together, but we have to cover the cost of the benefit, and we have to cover the cost of virtual streaming that we are exploring. So those are the two ways and options that we're looking at. And then again, if anybody's on the call that can help sponsor a youth, because coming back to job creation, we want to drive jobs, we want to create jobs and create companies that can get people to be hired, that have that right mindset in the company, but also have a stock in the company. And so we are looking at creating jobs, we're looking at job revenue. So all of us are responsible for showcasing Zambia, showcasing Livingstone, because the Victoria Falls isn't going anywhere. So let's figure out a way of driving that forward with our passionate host, her worship.
Indeed. Thank you very much. I just needed you to talk a bit more about that, because the cost thing has been a major thing, like a talking point. So it's really important for people to know that no one is taking any money out of this. Everyone is working voluntarily. And it's important for people to know that cost has to be covered. And this is the reason why that cost is as it is. Who are the people who are going to be gracing us with their presence? Who are the speakers, and how did you choose these speakers? And I'll let you go first, and then we'll go to Mr. Mwamba to just add a little bit more on that.
Oh wow! I thought Mr. Mwamba was going to go first, but I'll tell you, you were playing Dreams. You were playing Dreams earlier on.
Yes,
going to be there performing.
Yeah, we adore Dreams on this platform.
Yeah. Okay. I'll summarize it real quick. I mean, it's very deliberate. The agenda program wasn't just brought together by accident, right? It was very deliberate around ensuring that we showcase the policy. We unbundle the policies. That's one part of it. We also have, and that is going to be represented by a mix of both ministry and as well as diaspora, sitting on and unlocking the policy, what has worked, what isn't working. We also have a session on mindset. We spoke about that, starting from colonization. So Chisanga Put is going to talk about that and talk about the value of shifting the mindset, but the value proposition for diaspora currency as well. And then we also have sessions that are around job creation, right? So we're looking and highlighting business owners that are both on the United States. I'll give a shout out to like Constance Munzwe. She's been an entrepreneur on the West Coast. And then on ground, you have Bongo Hive. So we're looking at showcasing both because the mindset of these people is what has got them to where they are today. And just hearing their stories is always very interesting. And then we also have a session on corruption. We spoke earlier on about politics. Investors are not going to bring money into Zambia if there is not a good judicial system, if there is no rule of law. So we're really looking at ensuring that there's a session around corruption and how can we change the mindset around corruption, thinking that it really takes away from a country's development. So we have speakers on that one as well. And all this is on our website. We're going to update the program. We're getting finalized feedback from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, but I'll put a plug in for our website. It's www.shiftingmindset.org. So shiftingmindset.org. And then we also have Cultural Night. We're coming back to who we are as a people. We are diluting across the world. All countries are diluting their cultures. So we have Culture Night, and that will be opened by Chief Mukuni. And then we also have a black tie event where we're going to highlight and showcase and award Zambians that have been raising the flag externally for a long time. I know people like Kalusha Walia, he's Football Player of the Year, and we want to award him. And one thing that I'll say is that for him, is like, my mom has never seen me be recognized, so my mom's coming. My wife's son is coming. We have Lukwesa Burak, who again is always waiting for nice tidbits to showcase Zambia. Yeah. We have Sylvia Banda, who has been really raising the flag. Hillary Clinton knows her by her first name. So there's so many Zambians that if you ask a 21-year-old, do you know Samuel Matete, they might say, who's that? But he was number one in the world.
Legend, absolute legend.
Yeah, just imagine that. I mean, we had a Zambian who was number one in the whole world. He beat the Americans. Exactly. And so we want to award him as well. And he's very excited. So I just gave you a little bit of our speakers, a little bit of the program. There's more to come. But as we've said, we're very excited about this opportunity to start collaborating, to start really working together and creating that shift. And I've left a whole lot, but I think Xavier can come to my rescue.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Our viewers are so excited about this conference. That's why I wanted, and I'll be repeating some questions so that you can just summarize the answers so that those viewers who just joined towards the end can still catch what you were saying. Now, Xavier, I want you to touch on your vision. What's your vision? I know we've briefly touched on various things. So if you could just kind of summarize it and crystallize what your vision is, what your mission statement is, and what are your main objectives? What do you intend to achieve after the 2-day conference? We'll come back to London. You go back to the United States or Canada or Asia. You want to feel, okay, this did happen. We achieved this. What is that you intend to achieve?
Yes, so our vision has many elements. We are hoping that by having this conference, we provide, first of all, the platform that we spoke about earlier, where real, productive, effective conversations between diasporans and home can take place. If we manage to do that and have mechanisms to have that continue beyond the conference, would have achieved one element. The second vision is we are hoping to contribute towards unpacking the Zambia diaspora policy, take stock of what has happened so far since it was launched, take stock of what needs to happen going forward, and who are the actors and the voices that are missing in that process, who needs to come on board, both for implementation and also in terms of making sure that the right stakeholders are actually seeing the benefits of the policy itself. We're also hoping, as another last important point, which takes me back, even though we have all these brilliant stars, speakers, Zambians that have done great things, they will not have the last say. They're not the only ones who are going to speak at the conference. They are going to set the ball rolling. They're going to set the scene, but we're going to have an interactive session so that we hear voices from other entrepreneurs, less known entrepreneurs, emerging entrepreneurs, and Zambian businesses, young people. The reason why it's important to have celebrities or stars or successful people, already successful Zambians, it's important that the young people in Zambia can have someone to look up to, a young lady who's making it, or a young man or an old man who looks like them. So they know that these are not theoretical things we're talking about, that it's actually possible for them to achieve those things. That is why you are seeing us being very careful about who we bring to speak. It's got a purpose in all that in terms of shifting the mindset. Because visualizing success is very important to everybody individually, especially young people. If you can't visualize what success looks like, it becomes harder to achieve it. So I think that that's a vision that broadly for this conference, to go beyond just talking and have these mechanisms where we can continue. We're also going to have to broker, one of the roles of the conference is to broker partnerships, maybe people connect potential investors in the diasporas to local entrepreneurs in Zambia who are looking for partners, who are looking for different kinds of resources, and vice versa. There could be Zambians who want to break into the export market in the EU, in US, in Australia, in South Africa. We can broker this space. Hopefully, will provide some sort of arrangements for that kind to happen.
Okay, thank you very much. Dr. Frida, did you want to add anything to that? Or then I can move on to Mr. Mukelevai.
No, he covered it all. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Last sentiment, Mr. Mukelevai, before we close.
Okay, thank you. No, I wanted to ask the people behind this prospective conference that is going to take place in my hometown. And I'm glad that our mayor, she's proactive to it, and she's going to be part of the conference, and our chief. Thank you so much. My question is, have you also included this aspect where that my brother here suggested or said of the conflicts between the diasporas and the diasporan and our brothers and sisters back home?
Okay.
Yes.
Conflict. Yes, please. And if so, could you kindly share just a few insights?
One of the theme that we'll tackle is this idea of how do you create, how do you curate, how do you inculcate trust and effective collaborations between diasporans and Zambia. Without trust, just like any other type of relationship, even in our individual relationships, we just know how the lack of trust, or once trust has broken down, how it's very difficult to have a fulfilling or meaningful relationship, right? It's the same case as well at a higher level in terms of our relationships. So we're hoping that would begin the process of talking about these things and understanding more how we can break down some of those barriers that prevent effective communication and effective collaboration. Again, that won't happen in 1 day or in 2 days. But I think it's important to keep people focused as one on that as one key important element.
Is this going to be in English or also in local languages? Sorry about that.
I will take that. In fact, there's a gentleman that's greeting you from somebody that worked with you at World Vision. He told me to greet you before I tackle your question. Currently, we haven't identified the different language interpreters to switch it. So right now, it's definitely a good idea that we'll bring to the team and see how we can make that happen. I think it's a brilliant idea, but right now we're just going to really showcase it in English right now. But thank you for that suggestion.
Thank you. Mr. Chilufya, one quick last sentiment, please, if at all you have any.
Thank you so much, Madam Banks. Dr. Frida talked about changing the mindset, and then they're gonna have a session on corruption, because investors wants to come and invest in an environment where there is no corruption. But then again, Dr. Frida, I've been thought about some of the investors who've been in Zambia, like Grenco, KCM. Grenco has been found guilty of corruption in UK, in America, in Zambia, tax evasion, tax avoidance. So, are you not, because Mr. Mwaba also talked about every relationship based on mutual respect and trust. But these are investors who evade tax. They are involved in price transfer, and Zambia has lost billions of dollars through irregular recording of copper. So how is this conference going to deal with this? How is this conference going to talk about also the corrupt investors like Grenco and KCM? The owners of KCM. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for your question. And this conference, that's not our intention, really. We're just coming back to, it's outside of the scope of what we're doing. Those issues that you've raised around Glencore and price rigging and the existing issues, we definitely do not have that in the scope of the work that we're doing. There's a lot to be done, and we're just staying focused to what we have around engaging diaspora from the different continents to come and meet and collaborate and start the conversations and the discussions and the agreements to how we're going to act. But we don't want to take on these existing problems as part of what we're doing.
But sorry to interrupt, Dr. Frida. You said at the conference you're gonna have some people who might encourage somebody in America or in the UK to come and invest in Zambia. So are you gonna scrutinize those investors you want to partner with Zambians? Because we might have some crooked investors like Grenco. That's where I was trying to go to.
Thank you, Mr. Chilupia. Can I just add on that? Let me just take that, if that's all right. The aim of this conference is to shift our mindsets as Zambians. We're not going to dive into politics per se, so we'll leave that to the authorities to deal with that. And our aim and your aim should just be basically about helping us shift our mindsets in various avenues. Yes, there's going to be a talk about corruption, but this is mainly for the people themselves, the Zambian people, just to be on the watch out, on the lookout, so to speak, ensuring that they don't expose themselves to corrupt practices. They don't look at corruption and just turn the other way. The people themselves, big corporations, they are right authorities to deal with that. Did Mr. Wombo want to add to that?
I think this is not to say the issue that our brother has raised is not important.
It is very important.
It's at the heart of many Zambians. In my previous professional life, I worked extensively on Glencore, so I have a lot of interest and passionate. But this is just simply not the purpose of this conference. Every undertaking as specific, we have to stick to the specific goals, the specific objectives. We don't think this is the best vehicle to tackle such issues. There are a lot of other platforms that will contribute to dealing with those. Even the theme of corruption is part of that process. It's just not the objective to focus on one company or one individual or one case, as important as that case may be.
Okay, thank you very much. We have been joined by Nikki. Would you like to make a quick submission, please, before we close? Nikki, are you there?
Good. Yes, I'm here. Good evening, Linda. And I'm not too sure where Dr. Frida and Xavier are based, so I'll just say greetings to you.
Atlanta.
Oh, okay. Good evening, Wonkwidimba. Good evening, Patrick and Mkelebai. So my quick submission is just to congratulate the organizers of this conference. I think I wish to encourage you and just commend you for taking up such an initiative. It's such an encouragement to see Zambians who are based in the diaspora taking an interest in trying to change the face of this country. This is commendable, and I think it's long overdue. We want to encourage you, and would want to give you the support, those of us who are back home, in whichever way possible, I think for now, that's where I can just end my submission. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Did any of our guests have a last remark before we close?
No, I think we just to thank the last speaker. I think it's Nikki for
Yeah.
those words of encouragement, and definitely you can sort of visit our website and get in touch to see if you've something to offer. But I think your support is very much welcome.
Thank you very much. Well, this has been the Linda Banks Show on TV Wakwetu, and I've been your host, Linda Banks, with Mr. Mkelebai, Dr. Frida, Mr. Mwamba. We're joined by Nikki towards the end. Patrick, it's been a lovely conversation about mindset shift, which we all need, and we are constantly evolving. I saw this really lovely little quote which says, "Nothing is impossible." The word itself says, I am possible. So anything is possible. I know all these issues that we've talked about are embedded in us. They're rooted in our fabric, but we can change. And the change starts with the person that is looking at you in the mirror. Till we meet again, it's good night from me. God bless you, and God bless our country. Good night.
Good night. Thank you.
Thank you.